According to PwC's Global Compliance Surveys 2025, 77% of senior leadership teams say compliance complexity is hurting organizational performance. These are not organizations without compliance programs. These are organizations that pass their audits and still accumulate risk. Most compliance programs were built to pass, not to last. The fundamental tension is structural. Audits evaluate controls at a specific point in time, but organizations operate in continuous change. Cloud infrastructure evolves weekly. Access models shift. Vendors rotate. Deployment cycles accelerate. But compliance is still assessed as a snapshot. In NAVAC's 2025 State of Risk and Compliance Report, 67% of risk and compliance professionals cite a lack of visibility into risks or gaps in control implementation as a top concern. The gap between what audits measure and what actually happens is a systems problem, not a staffing problem. When this gap persists, organizations drift into compliance theater. Audits exist without operational assurance. Policies exist but are not operationalized. Controls are tested only near audit time. Evidence is collected retroactively. And remediation addresses symptoms, not systems. A survey of CFOs and compliance professionals found that 47% of compliance teams are focused on alleviating administrative burden. Only 16% are aiming for a strategic, continuous approach. Compliance theater doesn't collapse overnight. It fails gradually, through repeated friction, rising costs, and accumulating risk, until a triggering event makes the weakness visible. That is the problem. Here's the lens most teams are missing. Scrut's white paper introduces compliance quality as a new evaluation framework. It measures the degree to which a compliance program produces reliable evidence, sustains control effectiveness through change, and consistently closes failures. The core question: does your compliance work compound or reset as the organization evolves? High-quality systems get more efficient as scope expands. Low-quality systems get more fragile and expensive. Compliance quality is assessed across 4 pillars. Operational strength measures whether compliance functions as an organization capability or a recurring emergency. In strong systems, ownership is defined. Processes are repeatable, and audits follow predictable patterns regardless of personnel changes. Where it is weak, knowledge is siloed. Processes get rediscovered each cycle, and audits trigger fire drills. The question is simple: is your compliance repeatable or heroic? Not all evidence carries equal weight. Evidence reliability measures the accuracy, currency, completeness, and verifiability of evidence. In high reliability programs, evidence is generated continuously as a byproduct of normal operations. In low reliability programs, evidence collection becomes its own project. Screenshot-driven audits, manual exports, ad hoc reconciliation under time pressure. Evidence reliability is one of the strongest predictors of audit friction and repeated findings across every framework. Those are the foundation pillars. These next 2 pillars separate programs that survive 1 audit from programs that survive 10. Control durability asks what happens to your controls when the organization changes. Infrastructure evolves. Access patterns shift. Teams reorganize. Durable controls surface drift early and degrade gracefully. Fragile controls pass until conditions change, drift silently between audits, and produce surprise findings later. Repeated findings and audit regressions almost always trace back to fragile controls, not missing ones. Scalability determines whether compliance gets easier or harder as the scope grows. In scalable systems, Work done for one framework reinforces others. Controls map across requirements. Evidence is reused. According to Align, SOC 2 and ISO 27001 share 43% overlap in evidence requirements. If you have completed a SOC 2 assessment, you may have met nearly half of the requirements of ISO 27001. In low scalability environments, each framework is a separate initiative. Controls are duplicated. Evidence streams multiply. Compliance costs grow faster than the business. The white paper maps 3 compliance operating models that explain where most organizations sit and where they need to go. Model 1 is documentation centered. The goal is to produce audit artifacts. Evidence collection is manual or semi-automated. Remediation is reactive. The PCAOB found that 39% of audits it inspected in 2024 had significant deficiencies where auditors could not obtain sufficient evidence. Documentation can exist without proving operational effectiveness. Model 2 is insight-centered. AI augments automation to improve visibility and guidance. Teams understand what needs attention faster, but execution still happens outside the system. Humans translate insights into action, manually coordinate remediation, and verify closure themselves. Compliance becomes easier to understand, but not easier to operate. Model 3 is execution-centered. This is the structural shift. Execution is embedded in the compliance system itself. Controls are continuously monitored. Failures trigger automated triage and remediation. The system reduces backlog and prevents drift. Compliance becomes a durable trust capability, not a recurring disruption. Most organizations operate between Model 1 and Model 2. The transition to execution-centered compliance is what allows compliance quality to compound rather than reset. Organizations will increasingly be judged not by whether they pass audits, but by whether their compliance systems deserve confidence over time. Scrut is built to move compliance from documentation to execution, with continuous monitoring, automated evidence, and structured remediation across 60+ frameworks. To learn more, visit scrut.io. Link in the description.